Well, hello everyone. Pastor Ian here, the Krabby Krafter. So we're going to do something a little bit different with this video. I think I mentioned on one of my earlier videos, we are so far behind on our card making kits that we actually had to stop all of our memberships for a while, other than one of them, which I'm trying to keep it done each month. One of the kits that I really enjoy doing is the Stamps of Life. I mentioned that there's a couple that I recommend. Graphics 45 Company, G45. Spellbinders, and Stamps of Life. Those are kind of my three that I really recommend. I also do like a couple others, but those are the kind of the top three. The one I really like, probably the most that I do the most, is Spellbinders, and then right behind that, well, they're all equal. I can't put them in, G45, Stamps of Life, Spellbinders, my top three. But here's the Stamps of Life. Here's the Stamps of Life. What I'm going to be doing with this one is, this is from the July 2020 card kit. That's how far behind we are. Now, you can't get the kit anymore, as far as I know. The kits kind of go out each month with all the little stuff that goes in them. But you can still get, if it's still available, you can still get the paper pads. You can always get the stamps and dies, unless they discontinue them for some reason. So this particular set this month is the Floaties to Stamp and Die set. So this is what it looks like, okay? You got that, and then you got the stamps to go with it. Now, you'll notice that you've got 4 dies here, but you only got 3 stamps here. That's because this little guy here, the duck, actually goes with the second set of stamps, more Floaties to Stamp. And if you know Stamps of Life, you know how they work. They'll normally put out a stamp and die set, and then they'll put out an extra set of stamps, and sometimes extra dies, but usually an extra set of stamps that will go with it. So that little guy right there can be used on his own or for something else, or if you get the other set of stamps, you can use them with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this kit to do something I've been wanting to do. What I'm going to show you are several different techniques for how to use the dies with the Stamps of Life set. Because one of the things I love about Stamps of Life is every one of their dies comes with what I call a shadow die. It's an outline die. So you have the main inner die, and then you have the outer die. And I'll take this out of the package and show you that in a minute. But each one of their dies comes with that shadow die. I love it. I especially love their word dies. The one that came with this kit is the What a Day, and it's from the What a Day kit. And so you've got this big, beautiful outline, and inside you'll have the little stamp that says What a Day, or the die rather, that says What a Day. They don't have a stamp for it; it's just the die. So you cut out the shadow, and then you cut out the words. You layer. So we're gonna work with that as well. Now, what I like to do, I love the kit. You get 24, you get a pad of paper, you get 24 pieces of paper. It's 12 patterns, you get 2 of each. So the first thing I do when I get a kit is I pull the top 12 sheets out. I pull the first 12 out, and then I go ahead and pull out the extra one of these, because these go with the dies. So I actually pull out 13 sheets. I leave the other 11 in there, okay? So I pull out one of each, and then I pull out these. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to cut these out with the dies. I'm going to do that off camera, and we'll show you that later. But there is a die. These dies here, all right? Each one of these dies goes with one of these guys right here. You've got the pelican, well, you got the flamingo, you got the seahorse, and then you got the unicorn floaty. So all of these will cut out with this die. I will show you one quick thing. There's a little tiny die right there. So what in the world is that for? Because it's not on the paper pad. That goes in the stamp set. You got this little tiny seahorse guy right here. And you can stamp him and then cut him out. And you'll have like a little piece of ephemera. You'll have a little seahorse floaty that you can actually add to your card, and use it with a little foam tape and give a little dimension to it. So I think it's, so we're gonna play with that. We'll show you that too. But we're gonna focus on this card set, not so much using the kit, because all the stuff that came with it's great. But if you don't have the kit, it's not gonna help you any. I love these little starfish that came with it, and then they gave you these great little flip-flops, the sunshine. So we're gonna play with that. We're gonna make the cards, and as I said, we pulled all the paper out ahead of time. Well, we pulled out one of each of the main sheets. All right. I love the Stamps of Life. I love their papers. High quality cardstock. You can hear that, okay? One of the things I hate, though, is that it's double-sided. It drives me nuts because I always feel bad. If I use one side, I'm like, oh, I like this side, but oh, that yellow, that's just a nice plain yellow. That's real good. This one I won't feel as bad about using the fish because I won't miss that yellow as much. But then you've got these other ones, they have these beautiful wave lines on them. So you got that sunshine and you've got that on the back. And so all the backs of them on this particular set pretty much just has the waves or the plain cardstock. So it won't be as bad, but sometimes they have backs that are just, I feel like it's competing paper, front and back. So pull all these out. We're going to line these up, going to get some cards. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the dies, and I'm going to give you 5 techniques, at least 5 techniques on how to use the Stamps of Life dies. Not just Stamps of Life die. Anytime you get a die set, a stamp and die set, where you stamp and then the die cuts out maybe the shadow around it. That's just the one-piece basic set. But anytime you get a set that has the shadow die and then what I call the main die, a 2-die set, there's so much you can do with that. So we're going to work on that using this paper and using the kit. And you can use any paper, you can use any cardstock, you can use anything that came with it, but we're going to focus on that. I will say this as well. There's a lot of great things on the Stamps of Life website. They have great paper. Some of the best quality paper out there. I mean, their cardstock, you can hear that. It's and I don't even know the weight. I don't care because I've got cardstock before, 150 pound, 110 pound. Oh, and I grabbed it and it's flimsy and it's cheap. This is great cardstock. So if you watch my other videos, you know one of the first things I do, and I almost hate to do it. Sometimes I won't do it with the Stamps of Life cardstock. I'll grab my other cardstock. Is we're going to take we'll take our white cardstock sheets, and they're 8.5 by 11. And what we do is we cut them in half. We cut them 5.5 inches this way, and then we score them at 4 1/4 and fold them, and that gives us an A2 card. So you get 2 A2 cards out of each piece of cardstock. And a lot of times what I'm going to do, if I feel like I'm going to use this for something, I like this white, and I want to stamp on it, I want to be able to maybe color it a little bit, I won't turn that into a card base. I won't make the fold card with it. I'll use it for a front or something else. But the colors are wonderful. You can buy the papers on the website. Beautiful colored paper and just all high quality colors. So I love that. And they have some great inks as well. Beautiful colors and inks and everything. So I love Stamps of Life for that reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything kind of set up. And we're going to go ahead and die cut off camera. Okay. And then I'll show you what I've done. If I decide to, we may show 1 or 2 things, may keep it for you, but probably going to wind up die cutting off camera and then just show you the after results. And then if you guys have any questions, always anything you want to see demonstrated, reach out to me. We'll make the video. We'll put it on the YouTube channel and on the website and on the blog. So we get everything ready. See everyone in just a minute. All right, so the first technique I want to show you guys, and I did want to go ahead and show you this with the die cut machine, is to actually use the inner die and cut out opposite pieces from 2 different colors of cardstock. So what we've done is we cut out the pelican there and the seahorse with 2 different shades of pink. And what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 different inserts that you can then swap out. And we're using the main die for this. Yes, I've sped this up. It's going very quickly, but you get the idea. You can use the shadow die. We're going to show you that later. But when it's all said and done, this is what you get. Just a beautiful contrasting color piece that you can put on the front of a card. And notice that the little insert piece, the little inside pieces, we swapped those out as well. You can also just put it over white, different ways you can do it. And what we're doing here is we're going to glue it over a piece of white cardstock and then put the pieces in there, and you have 2 very beautiful card fronts. So the next technique I want to show you is to emboss. You actually emboss using the main dies. And I want to show you this because notice I'm taping it down, because when you emboss, the die is actually supposed to be facing up. So I'm turning that over so the magnets don't get in the way. And you can't see the dies because they're on the bottom taped in place over the paper. Then you put your silicone mat and your cutting plate, and then you run it through whatever die cutting machine you're using. So I did want you to see this. It's the only reason we're showing this, in case you've never actually done that before. Then when you're done and you pull the dies off, you're going to have this beautiful piece embossed into the card, and it looks just like that. Sorry it's not fully in camera. There we go. And there you are. And If you're worried about that, you can actually put a piece of cardstock over that on the inside. We'll show you that later. But it just looks really good. It gives some texture to it, some dimension to it. You can, if you want to poke out the eyes, you see I'll go ahead and do that there. You can do that as well, but you don't have to. And that's what that looks like when you emboss it. And it looks really good when you use the main dies. I would also add that any die you're using, I say the main dies from Stamps of Life, but any die you're using that has the ability to emboss, go ahead and use it for that purpose, and you'll get that image. But the Stamps of Life dies just work really well for this technique. All right, so here we go. 7 techniques. You got your main die and your shadow die. And the first technique is your standard technique, in which you're going to take the main die and you're going to lay it over the larger shadow die. Now don't lose any little pieces, like that little inner piece of the seahorse there you can see, or the unicorn horse there. Now don't lose your pieces, but that's how you would do it with the die set. Normally, when you put the main die over the shadow die, it's normally used with the word dies. And in this particular set, it's What a Day. So you've got the shadow die there, and then you've got the main die. And this is especially, like I said, this is especially with word dies, and it just helps give you a really nice little dimension, little pop to your card making. So when you layer the main die over a shadow die, you can use any die that has a shadow die, like the floaty there or the word die. Now I don't have any glue on the back of this. You do want to be careful. You may want to use double-sided tape. You may want to use something, or you just want to use a fine precision. Whatever you want to use that works for you. We'll go into that a little bit later when we actually make the cards. But that's the first technique. Now the second technique we've already shown you is to emboss. Don't die cut, but emboss one or both dies on the card front. In this instance, as we showed you before, we actually use the main dies. Now you do have that image on the back side, but you can always cover that with another piece of cardstock on the inside if you want to, or just leave it. Again, just gives your card a little texture, a little dimension. And either die will work. We're going to show you a technique in just a minute where we do use the shadow die to emboss. That's technique number 4. But technique number 2 is to emboss. All right. Technique number 3 is to cut the main die from 2 different colors and then insert opposite colors into the openings and adhere them to the card front. So we already showed you that. We did show you how we did that a little earlier, kind of sped through it to show you. But we took the lighter pink and the darker pink, and we just cut out the same 2 dies, and then we just flip them over each other. And then we just put that card front over nice white cardstock. You can actually even leave that open. You don't even have to put that in. If you wanted to leave that open, you could do it. Or you could even stamp inside of that and then color it in. Or you can just use the dies. But as far as the techniques we're showing you, with each of these, there's all kinds of variations you've got. You'll find that as you start working with these. Like, what if I try this? What if I do that? And you can do all of those. I didn't show the stamping technique. That's actually another one. But as I said, instead of putting the different colors in there, you can actually cut that out, stamp into the opening, and then just color it in with pencil. Then when you flip the card open, you'll actually have that on the inside. We'll show you a technique a little bit like that a little bit later on. But this is technique number 3, cutting it from 2 different colors to get that. Now technique number 4 is you're going to emboss the shadow die on the card front. And then you're going to place the main die over that embossed image. So we embossed the shadow die and we cut out the main die, and look at that. It just fits right on there. And it actually feels like a puffy sticker. I know you can't see it in the video, but when you do that, it almost gives you the image of a puffy sticker, like a puffy front. And it just looks really neat. And you can use that with any shadow and main die. So that's technique number 4. Now I will add quickly that you notice that one is actually cut out with the shadow die, the larger cutout, and actually fits over the whole die. You can do that too, but it just looks better if you just use the main die, and it leaves you that rough 3-dimensional edge, and it kind of, again, a puffy sticker kind of feel. So, all right, so technique number 5 is similar to technique number 3, but instead of using the main die from 2 different colors, we're actually using the shadow die now. We're using the shadow die. All right, so the larger die. And in this instance, we used the unicorn floaty there, seahorse floaty, or unicorn floaty, and then the word shadow die. So you see how we cut that out of the light blue, and then we put the darker blue. We cut it out of 2 different colors, light blue and darker blue, and then we just switch the colors. Now, there's two things you can do here. Look at this. When you glue it down, it's actually going to be on the inside of the card. Okay, you can do it this way. You don't actually glue it onto a card front. You could do it just like we did the other die, or you could leave it open. You can actually cut it out of the card front, glue those pieces in place, and when you're done, when they open the card, then that's what's on the inside. And so you can see we've kind of shown you that here with the green as well. And in this instance, I actually cut out the What a Day with the shadow and the main die together and left them intact. I could pull those letters out. I could pull the What a Day wording out and switch the colors twice. You'd actually have a kind of a neat little effect going on there. But in this instance, we use the main die and the shadow die cut out together. So you can use the shadow die or the main die, and you can mix and match them, and then you can glue them to the card front or just leave the opening and insert it into the opening like that. So in this instance, we just cut it out of the card front. When they open the card, the word's actually going to be on the inside. They'll see it and then they'll open it up and say What a Day on the inside. So that is that technique. And so this is a little bit of a variation, same technique we've already talked about. You're using the main die, in this case the word die, and you're just cutting it out of the front, just like we did with the pelican and the seahorse. We're cutting the word die out of the front, and then we're going to take a contrasting color and we're going to glue that into place. And again, you can do it in such a way that it stays on the card front, or you can do it so that when the card opens, it's on the inside of the card. And what I would do is I would, since I did this one out of yellow, I would just glue a piece of white cardstock behind it, and then that way you could do it that way. You just get the white shines through, or you could put the blue on it. However you want to do it. It's kind of just a lot of variation there. So just remember the techniques. They're similar. It's really the same thing. It's just two dies. You're just mixing and matching and layering them in very different and creative ways. Okay. That one is actually one that came with, I don't want that one because that one, I didn't color that one. Let me get this one. This is one both of these I actually colored with colored pencil. And so we're going to grab this. I'm going to put that in there just like that. There we go. So what you're actually going to do is you're going to stamp the image, colored in with Copic markers, colored pencil, alcohol marker, whatever works for you. And then you're going to cut it out using the shadow die. And if you use the shadow die, you're going to get that border. Or if you use the main die, you're going to get that image. And let me just show you what this one looks like, because all of these I cut out. This one I actually cut out using just the main die. So you see you don't have the border around that, okay? This one, if you use this one, you're going to get the border around it. And so that's the last technique. You cut out your image just like that, and then you can glue that to your card front. You can either glue it with or without a border, okay? And if you wanted to cut the main die for detail, you could piece it. You could actually take this, and this is one of the things that I actually like, is I could put some foam, three-dimensional foam on there to raise that up, glue it over the top of this one, and you would have this really cool 3D effect. So let me show you what that would look like. I won't take the tape off the back of this, but if I were to actually have it like it would be, and I'll show it to you this way, then it would actually be, and you wouldn't see that foam, you'd make it fit, but see how that gives you that nice three-dimensional effect, and you can actually see the image underneath as well. And you might have actually bought some three-dimensional ephemera and some three-dimensional card pieces and decorative embellishments for your card making from your local hobby store that already comes like this. Well, you can make this on your own just by adding that piece in there. Or you can just keep it completely separate, and then you can just glue it right onto the front of your card, however you want to do it, either with or without the border. Okay? And it doesn't even have to necessarily match. And if we wanted to grab this one, you could also even do this. If I glue that inside of the blue, I've created a border. Okay? So I glue that to the card front, glue that over it. So there's so many different ways you can do that. So I'm going to review these again kind of quickly for you. Got these all laid out here just so you can kind of see the different techniques and what we've got here. Maybe you can see everything spread out in the chaos of my workspace here. All right, so the first thing we do is a standard cut. It's the main die layered over the larger shadow die, okay? So you're just gonna, and that's especially when you're doing your word dies, all right? The second way is you emboss, but you're not gonna cut, but you're gonna emboss one or more designs on the front of your card. And then you can also emboss the shadow die and then lay a cutout of the main die over the top of that. Again, I really like the way that looks, all right? So you can also cut the main die from 2 different colors, swap those colors out. Well, let me grab, there we go, swap those colors out, and you have these 2 beautiful pink cards, okay? And then you can emboss the shadow die. We've already done that one. That was number 4. Number 5, cut the shadow die from 2 different colors and then insert them into opposite. That was number 5. I've already lost track of where we were. Let's see. Shadow die, main die. Oh, shadow die. I did it wrong. Okay, so that's the main die. And the shadow die from 2 different colors. And I'm not sure what, oh, there it is. It's right there in front of me. And actually, I knew I was missing something. Let's dump that out. See? We cut these out of this piece, and then we switch the shadow die. So you don't actually have to do the main die, but you get more detail if you're going to use the main die. But if you just wanted the shadow, if you just want, and then you could stamp on that, or you could put something else over it, however you want to do it. So that is actually technique number 5. So technique number 3, cut the main die from 2 different colors and swap them. Number 5, you want to cut the shadow die from 2 different colors and swap them. Pretty much the same technique, just different die. Then number 6, you cut the main die and the shadow die together, and you mix and match. You mix and match them by filling pieces in and out of each other, like this one. And what I'm actually going to do, well, let's show you on the green ones. We'll pop these words out, put it over here, pop these words out, put it over here. And that'll just give it a neat little look to it. And then the last thing is to simply stamp and color your dies and cut them out using with or without a border. And to show you how this works, that's why I remember one of the reasons I love the Stamps of Life dies. Look at this. This actually, look, you've got movement there. So you could actually glue that on, and you can glue a couple of these pieces together, and there's just so much you can do with it. If you wanted to tuck something in there, I know with some of the Christmas dies, you could actually like stick a Christmas present in there. There's a couple of dies I have that I do that with at Christmas time. But you get all this wonderful detail, and if I turn it over, you can see it on the back side, okay? And then if you wanted to, you could actually cut this piece off, and you could layer it and have maybe part of it as one piece laying flat, and then maybe another part of it popped up. So just kind of experiment with it and whatever you feel works best. So there you go. So those are the techniques for cutting with your dies. So I hope that's given you some good ideas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to make a bunch of cards. And we're going to make another video, and we're going to show you, I'm going to get my card stock, my paper, everything that came. We're going to take that, we're going to put all this together, and I'm going to make cards using all of this, and I'm going to show you the different techniques. Now we've kind of talked you through it. Just look for that other video to be coming soon. And when you see that, you'll see what it looks like once these are glued down, both inside the card, which I think that's going to look amazing. I just think that's going to be so neat when you get the card, when someone gets the card. And let me see if I can line that up. They get a card, and it looks like that. And then when they open it up, the What a Day is actually glued on. I just think that's going to be just right. And if you've ever seen a card like that, you know what I mean. So we're gonna make cards out of all this, and that'll be a separate video. And then hopefully that'll give you some more ideas too. But when you if you use the Stamps of Life, every month you get dies just like this. And the options are numerous. So have fun. And as always, Pastor Ian here saying, happy Krabby Krafting. Have a blessed day.